Okay, in a little more than an hour, our next guest will celebrate the launch of his new book at the Nashville Public Library. It is written straight from the pages of the real-life pandemic here in Nashville. It's called Hotspot, a doctor's diary from the pandemic. And the man who helped us through it here in Middle Tennessee is here with us today. Vanderbilt surgeon, Dr. Alex Jahangir, former chair of the Metro Coronavirus Task Force. First of all, welcome back.
Thank you so much. So good to be here in person.
It is wonderful to see you. I can't even, when I saw that you were writing a book, I was like, how on earth did he have time to do this? How did this book come to be?
You know, when this whole pandemic started, like everyone else, I thought this would be a couple of months at the most. Yeah. So when my mother-in-law's father died, he was a World War II pilot. He had all these letters that she brought out at his death where it kind of kept up to date of what he went through. So as I thought this was a 2-month ordeal, my kids were real little, they wouldn't remember it. I just started keeping daily notes every day of what I did. And about a year and a half into it, I went back and looked through my notes and I'm like, my gosh, we went through so much as a city. And so that one thing led to another, and here we are now with the book.
Wow, so it truly is a journal. It's not just a word. You know, you write in this that the pandemic equalized us, right? That we're all in the same boat. And I love this line because I think it's just like a life lesson. Like whether we like it or not, it also showed me that each of us has the capacity to either right the boat or capsize that boat. How do we hold on to that message in this post-pandemic world? Although, if you even say we're post-pandemic, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Well, you know, that is a lesson that in today's world, I worry so much that we have become so much about the self rather than each other.
Yes.
And you know, the pandemic showed that, but other problems we're facing as a city, as a nation, as a world.
A world.
Really. And so I do think every individual has the ability to either help their neighbor or can really mess things up for the person next to you. And so the pandemic showed that very clearly to me. And I hope as we start looking at other problems, whether it's infectious diseases or whether it's hunger or homelessness, we all need to come around together to be able to help each other get better.
Because it's not about you, it's not about us, it's about everybody, it's about caring for others more than ourselves in many cases, which is how you've modeled your life. You know, you write that, I think this is a really interesting point in it, that you write that African-American leaders in particular, throughout this pandemic, get a lot of credit for guiding us through. Talk about that a little bit. Tell us what you mean and with whom you worked.
Yeah. So, you know, the typical American story is mine, right? The immigrant comes, works hard, gets all this great stuff. The African-American story and the Native American story is frankly the opposite. You have people who have succeeded in spite of slavery, redlining, injustice. And as I started going through the pandemic, you know, I saw amazing leaders in Chief Swan, our fire chief, Dr. Battle of MNPS, Dr. Hildreth. These individuals taught me that in spite of hardship, you have to persevere, do what's right, and forget about the criticism and always work towards making the community better. And I think that is ingrained in the African American community in Nashville, and I suspect around the world.
That's probably why they're going to be joining you in this panel discussion here shortly, right? They're going to be on the panel along with John Sigenthaler, who's going to be hosting that. I want to know how you think we fared. How would you grade us? What do your fellow leaders say about that? And what could we have done better?
Sure. So, you know, I think as a city, we actually did better than we predicted, right? So when this thing started, the mayor and I was actually just talking about this a few days ago, we predicted 2,600 people would be dead in the first few months. We have lost 1,700 Nashvillians over 2.5 years. But could you imagine if we lost 2,600 people in the first few months?
That's terrifying.
It still is. And the mayor and I were reliving that a few days ago. And we're like, gosh, you remember that? We have vaccinated a fair amount of the city. We had mass vaccination events at Nissan Stadium. Our testing sites and vaccination sites that Meharry Medical College ran lasted almost 2 years. These are things other cities didn't do. So I think as a city we fared fairly well given what other communities were happening, but gosh, there's so much we could have done better. You know, as a new American myself, one thing that I really think we could have done better is how we initially approached the new American communities. We didn't do a good job reaching out to them, communicating with them. Thus, it led to a lot of morbidity, a lot of them getting sick. It took a while, but then we found great community partners in Siloam, Conexión, Turk that really helped get into those communities. And gosh, there's so much more we could have done better, of course.
But in general, when you were just talking about those numbers, to think that you expected 2,600 folks to have died, and they didn't, you know? I mean, it just brings me, I'm almost having like chill bumps a little bit, just even thinking back to that time in our lives. I want to end on a lesson that a lot of folks are desperate to hear, that we need to care more about others and ourselves. You write, we must leave no one behind. I want to go back to that and back to, because I think you have a platform now that, and you always have, well, for the last couple of years here, to really share that message. That's how, tell folks what you shared with me, if you don't mind, how you live every day and how you and your family even approaches life.
You know, I think for me every day, my personal mission statement is how can I help the community in which I'm in? And that community isn't necessarily the whole city, right? It's my family, it's, you know, my place of worship, it's my schools that my kids go to. You know, I think here's the thing, one thing I've really learned over the past few years. Our country and our cities become a schoolyard full of bullies, right, on social media.
Yes.
And you know, again, doesn't bother me, but it bothers a lot of people. And I can imagine that the energy, if people really bought into that and really start believing that the hatred that is put out there, we won't do well as a community. But our community succeeds when we rally around each other, help the lesser of us, and to do better. And I think if we all really do that, and we do it as a community well, the National Strong motto that we talk about when there's a hurricane, or not a hurricane, a tornado, or the pandemic, really, I saw that firsthand. You've seen it throughout your years here in Nashville. This community comes together really strongly. We need to continue to do that now for all the problems we face.
And we need to siphon it down to our schools, to our churches, everybody watching right now, to whatever it is in your world. Look right around you, because you can make a difference right where you are. Dr. Jahangir's book, Hotspot, A Doctor's Diary from the Pandemic, already, I'm calling this already a bestseller. It's on the top of the infectious diseases category, right?
That's right.
Woo! Yeah, it's available on Amazon right now, at Barnes & Noble as well. Thank you again for being here, for making the time. Hope you have a fabulous event down at the Nashville Public Library.
Always grateful to you and your team for, you know, always delivering the message and you know, providing the facts.
We'll continue that. Thank you so much.